For one who is indifferent, life itself is a prison. Any sense of community is external, or even worse, non-existent. Thus, indifference means solitude. Those who are indifferent do not see others. They feel nothing for others and are unconcerned with what might happen to them. They are surrounded by a great emptiness, filled by it in fact. They are devoid of all hope as well as imagination. In other words, they are devoid of any future. Eli Wiesel. Energy. Everything that exists in reality at all, when broken down to its basic component parts, is simply photon light and phonon sound. That's everything. Everything, all matter, everything that we perceive with the five senses. And a lot of people understand this, but they find it very difficult to really comprehend what it means. The fear energy that we feel for ourselves. We go through life, we create unrealistic goals for ourselves in our lives, and we live in fear of ever failing at these goals. We live in fear of death at the end. We live in fear of loneliness, fear of not fitting in, fear of financial worry. It's all fear. Everything about this society is based on fear. The world is in a state of crisis. But the real crisis that the world is in is the crisis that exists within human consciousness. Now, there's been a lot of talk over the years of the holographic universe, even reports I've seen in the mainstream that are saying that scientists are now suggesting that the entire world may in fact be a hologram. Now, suggestions like this are extremely significant for a number of reasons, and it's important to understand that evidence to support these suggestions exists all over the place. And it's also extremely important that people begin to gain some type of comprehension of what all of this truly means and how it can be related to what is going on around them and to what's going on this planet. And look, I'm bringing this up because I'm still getting letters from people who are saying they're in a state of fear, they're in a state of depression. There's many people feeling unhappy with their lives, unhappy with what they're seeing around them. And there's many people that seem to be having difficulty dealing with some of the information that they're getting. And so I really wanted to go through this today because, as I've often said, folks, I live my life in a state that is completely free of fear. I mean, and that's not to say that I'm going to stand in front of a tiger and let him maul me, or I'm going to take unnecessary risks. I mean, what I'm saying here is that I don't have any fear. That doesn't mean I've lost all common sense, reason, or sanity. And of course, I'm not going to jump off a cliff because I don't have any fear. That's not the same thing. What I'm saying is I have no fear of the future. I have no fear of anything reality may bring to me, because I see everything that happens to me on this planet as experience. It's simply what needs to happen for me to learn what I'm here to learn, and for me to gain the information that the collective consciousness needs me to gain. But anyway, look, getting back to what I was saying about the holographic universe, when you understand that atoms are all empty space, and then you begin correlating it with other information that's available, then you begin to see what's actually going on here. And you begin to see that what we experience as reality is a mathematical construct. It's quite literally a program that is based on our perception of reality. And that perception is very, very influenced by the information we are presented with. If this is a mathematical construct, which it really does appear to be, and it is literally a program, then how does it run? Well, when you understand how everything is simply photon light and phonon sound, that atoms are empty space, and then you start looking into the structure of DNA and the properties of electromagnetism, things become a little bit clearer. Now, I've often mentioned to you the work of people such as Dr. Bruce Lipton, who has very adequately explained how cell membranes work and how they literally download an electromagnetic signal from the surrounding field. And it would appear that this is how your consciousness accesses the biological water-based computer that is your body. It's literally downloaded from the surrounding energy field into that body. And that is the vehicle that is used for you to experience this reality. And the recent studies into water that clearly demonstrate that water has memory also goes a long way to explaining how this procedure works, because there's all the information that is needed to run the operating system. There is all the data that is needed in order to create reality, to create life. All of the information, all of the memory exists within the water. And your body is a water-based organism. So all of this information, all of this memory, all of this RAM drive comes into your body. Your body is virtually the operating system, and your consciousness is downloaded into it via your cell membranes. The frequency that is downloaded is determined via the structure of your DNA, which is what makes you, you. And this is how the program runs, and this is how reality operates. And when the collective consciousness believes reality to be what we see before us, then that, of course, is what we experience, because it's programmed into the water via the collective experience and the collective belief of those that have come before. Now, this may seem all very strange to people who have never really looked into this sort of thing, but then you can see that this hypothesis is also supported by the physical makeup of matter itself. Understanding, of course, that physical matter is, as I said, simply made up of different vibrating energies of photon light and photon sound, but the way it forms into matter itself is all based on sacred geometric principles. Everything is sacred geometry. What is geometry? Geometry is basically mathematics using shapes, if you really want to look at it. So here we have a mathematical geometric construct that creates all matter, no matter how chaotic this matter may appear to be. Whether you're looking at the chaos of a tree, the chaos of a cloud, the chaos of a waterfall, the chaos of a field of grass. It may look chaotic on the surface, but when you really get down to it and start looking at it on a molecular level, what you find is geometry, mathematics, phi ratio, and the Fibonacci number sequence. And this is in all reality, without exception. Everything consists of sacred geometry and phi ratio, Fibonacci sequence. So if this is really a random construct, if this is really a natural evolution, something that was brought about by nature through a random series of chemical events, then why is it not more random? Why does it contain set mathematical formulas that exist within everything? And of course, the only obvious answer to this question is because reality itself is a mathematical construct. As Max Planck, the founder of quantum physics, said, we can only assume that there is a conscious and intelligent mind behind the matrix, the force that makes up all matter. So this is definitely not as far-fetched as many people may perceive it to be, nor is it a new idea. In fact, science has been slowly realizing what reality is for a very long time now. So the point is that when you understand all of this about reality and you start understanding what is going on here, and you start to understand that what you are having here is simply an experience, then it becomes very difficult to fear anything that can happen. I mean, even if you die, you're still that frequency, you're still you. You simply make a transition to another place. There is nothing that can ever threaten or kill the frequency that is you. There is never a time that you didn't exist, and there will never be a time that you don't exist. You are absolutely eternal. You are the frequency, the expression of the consciousness of creation that is you, and you will always be this. The problem is that we have been taught that reality follows certain rules and exists in a certain way, and we have been taught to fear reality. We've been taught to fear the world around us, to fear the people around us, to fear the very act of being alive. It's just the fact that we have to pay to be alive. This whole system's been constructed to keep us in a state of fear virtually since birth. Well, since being a very young child anyway. As soon as we're old enough to really start taking the world in and perceiving it for what it is, we begin to be educated in the ways of fear and in the realities or so-called realities of our world, when really what we are subject to is indoctrination into a fictional system. I mean, when you look at the planet, you see every single problem that this planet faces all comes from the human race. It all comes from us. We are the source of every evil that we've ever seen on this planet. And we will continue to be the source of every evil that we see on this planet until we start to really look at what reality is and really start to understand what this force is within ourselves that causes reality to be this way. Everything within reality is mathematical. Everything is exactly the way I explained before, looking at it from a point of view of physics and science. Then how did the human consciousness get into a state where this is the reality that we've created for ourselves? I mean, if we're supposed to be so advanced, I mean, is this it? Is this what we came up with? Because it doesn't make any sense at all. And I guess where I'm trying to go with all of this is simply to get people to ask themselves that question, because it's an important one to look at. And if people can just sort of stop and think about this for a little while, I'm sure they will realize that it is a question that really, really needs to be acknowledged by people. Because if people continue to fail to acknowledge that this question exists, then the human race will continue to fail to find solutions to the problems that we face.